Time to get ourselves ready then for the Cadet final here at Whilton Mill. You can see the drivers warming up the tyres and brakes, but it's really tricky. We're at that critical point in a race circuit as well. It's February, it's Whilton Mill, so rain is usual, but there's moisture in the air, and that's going to make things very tricky. It could even end up with a little bit of psychological rain, as they call it, in the middle of the race. Oh, that's Rocco Geraghty! So Geraghty loses the back end of the car. So easy to do on cold tyres when it's this greasy. So hopefully he'll be able to get back into position. For the moment though, Margaris Kavekis and Cian Sullivan are going to be on the front row. Geraghty hopefully will get back into P3 along with Albie Smith. Then Luke McGall, Matthew Plant, Archie Rutter and Harvey Turner sharing row 4. Then Lorenzo Martin and Rowan Marshall. On the 6th row of the grid, we actually have Alistair Saunders and Rebecca Restel. Will Davison, though, is the lone 160 driver and is down on power by 40 cc's and yet is ahead of several of the other contenders in the field. That's very impressive from Will Davison and definitely worth keeping an eye on when we get underway.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. This is another standing start, by the way. And because it's a standing start, the 13 kart there, Rocco Geraghty, will be able to recover his P3 position. If this was a rolling start, Jake, he would not be able to do that.
Yes, indeed. That's a belated Christmas present for him, isn't it? He's very lucky about that. Now, a couple of the drivers look to me like they're not quite in position. Somebody working on Ted Fry's kart to the right of your picture. So just making sure that Ted Fry is in the correct position. Oh, we've got a couple of drivers who are not quite sure. That's Aidan Ingram and Alistair Saunders getting himself back in front of Will Davison.
Jenga for karts, Jake.
It is a little bit,
Jenga
yeah.
for karts.
It's a bit like Go Fish, isn't it, when you played it round in the nightclubs. But unfortunately, a couple of drivers not quite in position, so that means we need to shuffle the deck. But look, let's give these guys a little bit of grace. We have to remember, this is not like football or rugby or tennis or cricket when you've got all that pressure taken away from you. None of those under 18 clubs or under 15s or reserves or juniors, those matches are never televised.
No.
All those mistakes are behind closed doors.
We've said this before, biggest sport in the world, football. If you're in America, I know you like calling it soccer, but the real name is football.
Yes.
Let's get it right. Football. Do you ever see 6-year-old kids? We've already seen the Bambinos in this programme so far. 6-year-old kids in a high-quality TV programme. Now, I call it high quality, obviously. But, 6-year-old kids on TV. You don't see it in other sports, not least football, which is the biggest sport in the world. We're going to take a short break while we get the grid sorted.
So let's get things under starters' orders then in the Honda Cadet final here in the UK Kart Series at Whilton Mill, where so many incredible motor racing careers have begun. It's not just in the worlds of Formula One as well. A lot of drivers have gone on from here to the world of Indianapolis, to Bathurst, to the Le Mans 24 Hours. Amazing facilities, great updates. I have to say, those halloumi fries in that clubhouse are absolutely to die for. I'm absolutely convinced that at least 3 kilograms of my current weight are all Whilton Mill's fault, and I will take that information to the grave.
We've still got Jenga for karts going on.
We have a little
They're trying to get into position.
Yeah, we have a little
drivers,
bit. But
with the help of the marshals.
Yeah, it's great work from the officials and the marshals here, by the way. They do this voluntarily. They are absolutely passionate about the motor racing. And we don't give the marshals and officials in motor racing enough credit. Without them, we can't do anything at all.
Exactly. We've seen some world-class marshalling over the years. I remember, or you may remember at Lyd in the bikes, Jake, where somebody went down big time.
Yes,
and the marshal had the yellow flag out within a fraction of a second.
Yeah, it was about 0.3, 0.4 of a second they had straight on it. Here we go then. We're under starters' orders at Whilton Mill in the UK Kart Series Honda Cadet final. Is Cian Sullivan going to make the bid already into oblivion? And yes, indeed. Oh, and there's contact, I think. A little bit of a spin. It is Geraghty. He already had his moment. But what about that for a recovery? He spun it, got straight back on the gas, and has managed to get himself right back into the heart of the midfield. So excellent reflexes there from Geraghty to spin it, but then keep going. So back at the front, Cian Sullivan is now into the lead of this race with Margaris Kavekis in that very cool camouflage style livery, the black and white, very reminiscent of the Red Bull F1 testing livery for a few years ago, running in second position in front of Albie Smith.
Now we're going to see what Rocco Geraghty particularly is made of as one driver runs wide there, because you come into this final in P3, you go off through turn 2, you spin it round and keep going, And now he's got to keep his head in the game and try and get the best result he can. If the best result for him is 6th, then get 6th. Don't come 16th.
Yeah, absolutely. You've just got to try and find the best that you can get from each opportunity. Cian Sullivan leads the way then from Margaris Kavekis, then Smith, McGall, Plant, Turner, Archie Rutter in front of Lorenzo Martin, Rebecca Restel and Rowan Marshall. Check out the duel that is already taking place a little further behind the race leaders. This is Plant, Turner and Rutter absolutely joined at the hip. A little bit of a shuffle of the deck here on the inside as Kavekis still holding on here in front of Albie Smith. Albie Smith looking for an opportunity to try and get into P2. 4th is McGall, look back. That is Matthew Plant, I believe, still doing a good job. And then you've got Turner, Rutter, Martin with Restel and Marshall a little way further back. But they're all conflagrating now. They're all sort of compressing into this same battle. And in the middle of all that is Rocco Geraghty, now up to 11th position and already giving hustle to Restel and Marshall.
Yeah, it was in 11th when he went through the line this time. We'll see the times updated. Fastest lap by Sullivan as he went through in the lead. Where is Rocco Geraghty? Still there in 11th, but I expect him to make up a number of places. This is a battle for 6th on screen.
Yeah, that's the move, I think, from Martin to get through on Archie Rutter. Here comes the move. Lorenzo Martin is through. Very nicely handled as further back. Rowan Marshall has got a little bit of duelling to come his way. Rocco Geraghty on the number 13 cart, looking for the move to the inside, will dive, and that's P10. Lovely job from Rocco Geraghty. Absolutely nailing the apex on the inside line. That's 1 down and 4 to go just in this train.
Yep, we'll see where he goes from there. So he's into the top 10, Rocco Geraghty. He will be disappointed, no doubt.
Here comes the move again to the inside line. I thought there was going to be a bit of a rush there from Rutter to try and get back through to the inside line. Lorenzo Martin really starting to hustle Harvey Turner.
Quebec's fastest lap.
So far so good as McGall has managed to pull clear of Matthew Plant. Harvey Turner is the cork in the bottle here. This is where things could get tight as Lorenzo Martin in 7th position tries to find his own move because Rutter and Restel are getting very close in behind, and so too is Rocco Geraghty. Back with the leaders. Cian Sullivan had a decent gap over Margaris Kavekis, and Kavekis and Smith have actually worked together here to eat that advantage down again. They've got back on terms with him. He may have pulled a little bit of a gap, Cian Sullivan, originally, but Kavekis and Smith are not going to let him have this one too easy. They're going to get right back in the hunt.
Yeah, Kavekis on pole, knows he's the fastest man effectively on track. So he'll be confident, especially as he's closed down what was a decent lead by Sullivan. Sullivan had the fastest lap. We'll see what the lap times are as they go through. As the times pop out, there is the fastest lap by Sullivan again, but not for long. Kavekis now clearly got the fastest lap with a 54.5 and some change. So Kavekis now the fastest man on track in 2nd place.
Now keep an eye on Kavekis in comparison to Cian Sullivan. I noticed that he's taking slightly different lines to the leader, and that's the opportunity that he has being in 2nd position. He can read where Sullivan's going, try and pitch the kart in a slightly different position, and try and gain just that little bit of extra momentum. It's a brilliant advantage to be in 2nd position right in behind the leader because you can see what they're doing and adapt to it. I always loved in my rental karting excurts being the guy chasing, because you can always suss out what the leader's doing and try and make the benefit come your way. You can see where they're vulnerable, you can see where they're weak, and that's exactly the strategy that's working out for Kavekis, as again, big defensive moves from Harvey Turner, trying to keep Lorenzo Martin at bay. And look who's next in line, it's Geraghty. He's already made up 2 places as Kavekis once again bangs in the fastest lap of the race, but Geraghty is already trying to take on Lorenzo Martin. And look, Cian Sullivan, the race leader, having to go defensive on Kavekis.
Yeah, it's close at the front. The 2 leaders, Sullivan, Kavekis. Albie Smith just dropped back slightly. Looks like it could be between these 2, but Albie Smith has got track position. We've seen this. We saw it at Hoop Park last year in one race in particular where the 2 leaders tangled. If you're in 3rd place, you'll pick up all the pieces, and that's what he'll be hoping for.
Big run wide from Kavekis though as they went through, and that's obviously going to cost him quite a bit of time there. He's going to have to try and find a method of getting back into this. So Sullivan has now managed to build up a little bit of a gap there as well.
Yeah,
so
decent gap.
Kavekis now has Albie Smith for company, and it's that kind of psychological disadvantage that can really pay dividends for Albie Smith. This is all going to be about what Kavekis can do to respond now.
Yeah, so Sullivan set his fastest lap last time round, but it wasn't the fastest lap of the race.
Oh, Geraghty, sorry, apologies to cut you off, but Geraghty's got past Martin now, so he's into 7th.
Okay, so there you go. That just shows you he's kept his head in the game, and he's still in the mix as they go up into Christmas corner one more time. Out of Christmas, they go through this little left-handed kink. The right-hander here is Inkerman's, and that brings them down to Ashby, Jake.
Yes, indeed, and Ashby is one of the prime corners to make a move. Geraghty not quite close enough to Harvey Turner to make that happen yet, as they go into Wilkins, through the left, and then up towards Osiers. This is where you can really get a decent benefit. You go slow in and fast out, and that looks to me exactly what Geraghty's done as he goes down the back straight, but that's good placement from Turner. Can he hold it as they go into the boot? He has a think about the inside line, but he knows that he's going to have the outside line for the next corner, and just the chain reaction of momentum, he gives him a little love tap on the way through the toe of the boot. And as they come out of pit bend onto the straight, the young man from Wolverhampton, Archie Rutter, is sensing an opportunity to try and move his way from ninth position. Geraghty trying to thread the eye of the needle as they go up Manuel's bank. Through Fine Lady, very close, and now up into Christmas. Here comes the move from Geraghty. P6, lovely dub.
Good. I like to see him keeping his head in the game. He hasn't allowed the red mist to get the better of him. I said earlier, if 6 is the best you can get, then get 6. Don't let the red mist come down and end up in 16th because you're angry with yourself, you made a mistake, or somebody's knocked you off. Get the best result you can. He's
done it quite early on in the race still, so he does have time to close up on Matthew Plant and try and go for 5th position. 4th is going to be a job, but I think 5th position could be on.
5th place definitely on, 4th place just too far ahead, I think.
And now Cian Sullivan's got confidence. He's just banged in the fastest lap of the race out in front, so that's absolutely what he needed. Margaris Kavekis still doing the best he can to work his way further forward, with Albie Smith in 3rd position, still there or thereabouts. Luke McGall is having a race on his own, essentially, up in the front end, but Rocco Geraghty still has time to catch Matthew Plant. There's only a second between them, and the battle for 7th behind him now is raging. Turner, Martin, Rutter.
Sullivan 1.184 as he went across the line, so he's eking out a bit of a lead here, Jake. It could be a commanding advantage. 1.1 doesn't sound a lot, but that's a decent lead in karting.
Certainly is, and that's a good 6 to 7 kart lengths, and all you need is just that knowledge that the engine behind you that's chasing you down is not particularly loud. You can't really hear it in your helmet, and that means that you're not under too much pressure. You can just control your own pace and run at a fairly statutory level. Mind you, into the last lap, and Kavekis has gained a couple of tenths.
Yes, a couple of tenths.
Oh, he's really trying to make the move around the outside of the back markers, so this could actually come back to bite Cian Sullivan. He's got to keep his wits about him.
Yeah, now he's a couple of tenths closer, but Sullivan down the inside, the leader, he's got past the back marker.
Oh, that's masterful.
And that is the race win right there. Here comes Kavekis up the inside. He's closer to him, he's within half a second probably, but I don't think that's close enough here on the last lap.
I mean, it's going to be mighty close. If there's even a whisker of a chance, then he's absolutely going to go for it. Kavekis knows that they're on the last lap. If he gets even the slightest hint that a gap could open up, he will try, but Cian Sullivan has done enough out of the final turn, and it will be the victory for Cian Sullivan, and he can be absolutely delighted with it. Shows no emotion as he comes across the line, I noticed, just keeping it in check. Kavekis in a brilliant second from Albie Smith. Luke McGall will be B4 in front of Matthew Plant, and that is because Rocco Geraghty has just run out of time. He's done everything he could. He got to within 4/10 of a second, but it just wasn't enough. Good work, though, from Cian Sullivan to hang on in front of Margaris Kavekis despite all the pressure.
Yeah, good effort by Rocco Geraghty. We'll have a look at the official results. Just make sure there's been no exclusions. So it is Sullivan that wins it from Kavekis, Albie Smith, McGall, Plant, Geraghty, Turner, Martin, Rutter and Marshall. Good effort by Rocco Geraghty despite spinning off through turn 2. Ends up 15 seconds behind, but 6 was the best he could get, and 6 is what he got in the end.
Yeah, some really good racecraft from the drivers out there. Cian Sullivan managing to hold on despite Kavekis closing in, dropping back, then coming back at him again in that last lap. A lot of drivers would have lost their head.
Well, that's all we got time for in this first programme, but the second programme coming up very shortly. Don't go away, we'll see you again soon.